Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast as you're driving along in your car or your truck, or put in those earbuds and sit back and take it all in while you're on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the attitude that many migrants, especially from the third world, and particularly from the third world, particularly non-Christian migrants, have towards the law in the white countries they're migrating to. Now, remember, they're coming to the white countries simply because they're rich, not because they want to be in the white countries or because they want to be in a Christian country. Far from it. They're just coming for the freebies and the handouts. Now, I'm sure there'll be exceptions to that, but that's pretty much how it is, and very much how the globalists are structuring the mass people movement, which they're facilitating through the United Nations and all sorts of illicit backdoor funding to NGOs and so on. So you've got masses of illiterate third world peasants coming to the West who've got no concept of justice or law or administration of law or punishment for crimes or things that are normal day-to-day goings on in the third world countries. There are crimes in the West. Similarly, they're taught that white countries are morally, the bad guys, slavery or this or that. And they're also told by all the activists that the reason their countries are poor isn't because they've got a dissolute, lazy, low IQ population. No. It's because evil white people stole all their money. Otherwise, everybody would be equally rich everywhere in the world. An absurd proposition. But when you're an IQ 80 third world peasant, that sounds pretty appealing. Oh, yeah, hey, that's right. That's why. So I'll go to the West and take back what's mine anyway. So not only do these people have contempt for the white West and contempt for all the systems and procedure, even though they will accept they benefit from it, and they have contempt for the laws. They're white man's law. So they're not legitimate. White man's wealth is not legitimate. White man's country is not legitimate. White man's status is not legitimate. White man's laws are not legitimate. Why the fuck should I follow those laws? Why should I adhere to them? Why should I be concerned by them? White man's law, white man's court, white man's police. None of it is legitimate. So I can still do and behave as I would in the third world shithole I came from. If I get caught, well, who really cares? It's not a legitimate thing anyway. And this is very much the view that a lot of them have. Now, can you find, does every single one of them hold this view? Well, no. Does many of them hold a view? Yes. Now, they come from very lawless societies where the rule of the machete is what decides what's right and what's wrong. And they seem to think, or many of them do at least, that this is how things should be. Even ones that come to the West at a young age, or for that matter, even born in the West, that they still think the law of the machete is how it all happens. Now, I guess it's important to note how violent and murderous black societies are all over the world, whether you're in Chicago or in Africa, and how tribal they are. So the amount of, and this is, black people I know have come from Africa. They just, thousands of people go missing, but they don't know where they've gone. Can't be proved that they were murdered. Maybe they migrated, maybe anything. Now they have been murdered. They've been chopped up into bits and put out in the jungle, but that can't be proven. And there isn't the police resources to do it. The police aren't paid very much. And so they're less than diligent in pursuing or following up on crimes. On top of that, the person who killed may be from a rival clan or a different tribe or something like that. So why would you even put any time into chasing that up? You know that the person was murdered, but the person that murdered them was your cousin. So, you wouldn't bother with chasing that sort of thing up, and so you'd let it go. And anyway, you're too busy running around trying to extract bribes and extort payments from whoever because your pay is so crap. You don't have the resources anyway to go and chase a lot of these things. So unless the politicians tell you chase this, do that, go after that person, because then your job will be in jeopardy, unless you get that sort of political, which means that the police and the justice system are just 100% politicized, as they are now in the West. I mean, look at what's happening in Britain at the moment. The Prime Minister says, have special courts to go and prosecute those white people who don't like globalization. And bingo, that all slips into gear, harsh penalties given. If that's not politicization, of the law in Banana Republic style. I don't know what it is. I mean, that's got to be the most classic example. This should be in law schools everywhere around the world as to what not to do when you're administering the legal and the justice system. But a lot of the people coming from the third world have utter contempt for the law, and they're not used to this idea. But so what if I killed that guy? I mean, who cares? He's from a rival tribe or family or something. What have I done that's wrong? Because that's the view they have of things. And again, we see the same thing. Black people that are hundreds of years out of Africa, in the United States, as example, they're still behaving as they do today and did do then in Africa. So the amount of black on black killing is astonishing. You can have 100 people plus getting shot in Chicago every weekend, or every week rather, and nobody sort of really cares. It's not even newsworthy anymore. 10, 15, 20 of those people can die from gunshot wounds. But again, it's black gangs shooting and killing each other. And that's before you get to the knifings and the whatever else, the bashings and so on. How is it at all possible that this sort of thing is not an international headline? But it's not. And so what deterrents exist, or are Western standard methods of deterrent which reasonably effective deterring white people or the local indigenous white population? Why are they so much less effective when deterring the recent migrants from black areas, brown areas, and Muslim areas? Well, the Muslim areas is a bit more simple. They don't recognise the law. They recognise Sharia law, but they don't recognise white man's law. Or Christian law as they would, infidel law as they would see it. So they don't see that they've committed any offence. For example, if a woman's going around in scanty clothing, then it must be because she's a prostitute. It can't be anything else. Therefore, if a number of men have their way with her, then they kind of haven't really committed a crime because she was already morally bereft to begin with. So how can she be further morally defiled when she's already defiled? And these sort of attitudes and views permeate many societies, but not Western society, of course. So they don't particularly see they've actually done anything wrong. And therefore, why are they being punished, really? The punishment is illegitimate. The white man's law is illegitimate. White man's police are illegitimate. The Christian, it's all illegitimate. So why should we really have to worry about it? So even whether it be in Australia or in Britain, you have these running machete waving, black youth, often Islamic, not always, these machete waving black youths running up and down the main street. And when they're caught, the social workers arrive, assuming they're even arrested, by the way. But when the social workers arrive and the activists arrive, the NGOs arrive, and so on, free lawyers, they get free legal aid. If I run around with a machete down the main street, no one will give me free legal representation. So they get mitigating circumstances argued. These people are incredibly capable of getting sympathetic prosecutors, sympathetic judges to hear the cases, unlike those people, the protesters in Britain, where they get very unsympathetic prosecutors and unsympathetic judges. It's the reverse here. So the machete waving, cutting a few people up person can only maybe get 6 months in prison, maybe just a 5-year good behaviour bond, maybe even a community service order. A lot of the Black Lives Matter people in the US, they burn a building down or beat someone to a pulp and they just get a community service order. I mean, you've got to be kidding. But these are the sort of things that are going on. So not only are the deterrents sort of viewed as illegitimate, as in the legal deterrence, prison and that sort of thing, viewed as illegitimate, there's also a view that why harshly sentence, as in long prison terms, why harshly sentence these brown and black people when they've actually committed no. The idea is that ideologically those people are aligned with the globalist project, either as useful fools or as stalking horses or whatever. So why punish them? We want them to be engaging in this sort of behaviour because it creates a social division that we want as we enforce the globalist project. Whereas a political crime, you're disagreeing with the globalist project, they should be judged harshly, but for the wrong reasons. But coming back to the the crimes committed here, the deterrent doesn't work. Now, I remember I was in a court case. I was watching a court case where there's a guy, white man, straight white male, upper middle class, I guess. He has got a nice house in a nice area and so on. He was in court for driving under the influence, drunk driving, and he was like microscopically over the limit. So I don't know why it went to court, but anyway, they were having a party, and some guys, his car broke down or something like that. So they'd been drinking, and it's a dinner party thing. And the host said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll drop you down at the train station." It just so happened that there was a police, alcohol breath testing unit that was in operation, and they just happened to pull this guy over, and he made the limit or just over it, and so that's it. So anyway, the judge hearing the case, and this is the effect it has on certain people, but not on others. The judge hearing the case said, "Look, as far as I'm concerned, I'm paraphrasing here, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a serious matter. You went out into a crowded street and you shot off a machine gun, and you're firing a machine gun all over in the crowded street. The fact that you didn't kill anybody was sheer good luck, not good management or your good behavior. And as far as I'm concerned," the judge says, "this warrants a prison sentence." Now, the guy, he's dressed in his sharp suit, and he's got his lawyer there, and his hair's done, and he's trying to present an image of an upstanding citizen of the first magnitude. And so, but when the judge says this, I thought the guy was going to shit himself and fall over. The color drained from his face, and he noticeably got sort of shaky on his feet, and he looked in terror at his lawyer. And his lawyer, who'd obviously been through the loop many times, just calm down. And again, I thought the guy was going to pass out. And the idea of being separated from his wife and children, losing his job, he can't make the payments on the house, they lose the house, the shame, the opprobrium, everything, and it all flashed in front of. I'm sure it all flashed in front of his eyes at once. He'll maybe not be able to get another job that good in the future, and so on. How long in prison, and he's going to be standing alongside all those mass murderers and whatnot. So anyway, this all flashed in front of him, and when the judge was toying with him, and when the judge was sort of satisfied that the guy was in a state of rabid panic, which he was, then the judge said, "But in this instance, it's your first offence, and I won't do it." And I thought the guy was going to collapse again from relief, let alone terror. And he got he had to pay some fine or something like that. But and he lost his license for a period of time. But he this was the effect it has on people who have something to lose and who want to be part of a society and well thought of in that society. But when you've got someone who has, on a relative basis, at least nothing to lose, and where they don't care about the society, they're not wanting to integrate into or become part of or assimilate into that society, all they care about is the other, angry black people from Africa that came over with them, that are forming a little community, and where it's not considered a bad thing to be in prison for a while. And anyway, you get free food and free medical care and roof over your head and all this sort of stuff, and you get lots of people around to threaten and intimidate in the prison. And so, I mean, this is not so bad in the overall scheme of things. And you come out and you've got as much as you had when you went in. So the deterrent is different and has a different effect. Now, I noticed this in the United States when I'd walk through somewhere like Central Park. You'd see the look on the face of some of the black people in the park. They had nothing to lose, nothing to lose. I was worried about getting my suit dirty or creased, so I had to take it to the dry cleaners or something. I was worried about, getting mud on my shoes or something. I was worried about those sorts of things. And yet there's the black guy staring at me, in the park, like a vagrant looking sort of dude in the park, who's got nothing to lose at all. If he murders me, nothing really changes for him. He's murdered me and I've lost, or he in the event there's a scuffle or something, I'll get my suit torn and so on, or maybe get injured in some way. But there's nothing that he is threatened with. I am in a situation where I'm easily threatened, but he's in a situation where he has no threat. What can you do to threaten someone like that? What? And maybe the electric chair or something, but that's not up for debate here. So we need to understand deterrent and people's position in society and their relationship to wanting to be part of society and the shame. For example, if the police, say the police knocked on the door here and all the neighbours saw it and they said, "Hey, Billy Bob, we've it's been reported you did this or that." Whether I'd done this or that or not, the mere fact they're at the door bailing me up, I would be humiliated. In my view, I'd be humiliated in the amongst my neighbours and people I know, and then I'd be sort of obligated to explain to them that well, it was a mistake, or they got the wrong address or the wrong, but I'd be obligated to do that. Such would be the sense of shame and humiliation that I would have. Now that's something that's very, very middle class. Someone who's got a life, who's got a family, who's got a wife, who's got a standard of living, who's got owns things and believes themselves to be very much part of a society. But to these people, the deterrent is different. Not only do they believe white man's country law is illegitimate, the white man's punishments are illegitimate, the white man is morally evil from slavery or something. That they come with, but also they have nothing. They don't identify shame and guilt and humiliation anywhere near the same way as white people do. So the punishments that are prescribed, that are prison or something like that, that's something that's not that doesn't work with them, or anywhere near to the same extent, and therefore the punishments. The argument is by the activists that, well, we should make the punishments more lenient, and if we make more lenient punishments for these people, then somehow it'll be better. And then because too many of them are getting arrested for committing crimes, so that, why don't we pretend the crimes they commit aren't really crimes? Then we won't arrest as many of them, and they'll create equity or something like that. But the reality is that the punishments aren't working and don't work, or don't work anywhere near to the same extent. So how do we address that, and how do we develop a legal system, as in crime and punishment? How do we develop that in the West to ensure that deterrents to crime are as equally as formidable as they would be for the white guy with a family and the house in the burbs? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback Channel. Thank you for listening.